Hello, today, I will be recapping the continuation of the animation series called Soul Land. Link of part 1 and 2 is in description or comment box. This episode begins as we see Tang San going inside the martial soul hall, so he can evaluate his martial soul. Tang San reunited with the soul master that visited his village. The last time called San Yen Tao, who recommended Tang San to a man called Master Shunyo, who is going to help him in the identification of his soul powers. He takes Tang San to the lowest level of the martial soul hall and explains to him that no matter how small a town is, there will always be a martial soul hall. Like this size, he tells Tang San that the biggest martial soul hall is the sacred temple. But only soul masters with the highest soul level can gain access to the hall. When the evaluation process for Tang San's soul powers begins, Master Shu Null is really so shocked to find out that Tang San has the 100-year soul ring. Because of this, he curiously tells Tang San to show him the level he has achieved so far, only to surprisingly find out that Tang San has already reached level 13 soul powers. This was so unbelievable because Tang San is only a child and it's very rare to see a soul master with this kind of energy master. Yu Nu then suddenly asked Tang San, the soul beast, he hunted to get his 100-level soul ring, only to find out that Tang San had hunted down the most powerful soul beast called the tourist snake. Impressed by all this, he appeals to Tang San to join his school and become a student. But Tang San disapproves as he already attends a school in the new outing city. According to the instructions his father gave him, Tang San goes to a very professional blacksmith in the city, so he can work as an apprentice and other to raise money to further his education. But the blacksmith tells him to go away because it's against the rules in the land for a blacksmith to deal with kids, and also makes fun of him because he looks small and soft. But when Tang San kept on appealing, the blacksmith leader tells him to prove himself useful by only trying to lift his hammer up. But intentionally he wants to make fun of Tang San as he believes it is impossible for him to even shift it. Tang San, willing to prove himself worthy, goes close to the hammer, and as he remembers everything his father taught him about hammering skills, which is another to wield the hammer you must start from the calf muscles and then the heart, and finally the waist of the axis in order to pass the power up. When Tang San uses these techniques, he was not only able to lift up the hammer, but he was also able to continuously strike the metal in the workshop, which astonishes all the blacksmith that witnessed it. Suddenly we see a mysterious man who appears to be in a mask, watching Tang San from the other side. 1 year later we see Sho escorting tanks, and as we find out that he is paying a visit to his father whom he hasn't seen for a long time. When he arrived home, he sees no one there, apart from the village elder who gives him a letter from his father, which says an eagle can only fly high when it's independent. Sadly, Tang San finds out that his father has left him, which made him so heartbroken. His forefather believes he is of no use any longer to tanks, and so he already went to a trip to get back something that belongs to him, and this was how this episode ended. Next episode begins as we see that same mysterious man who was spying on Tang San from earlier paying a visit to Tang San's master. It is revealed that the man on mask is no other person but Tang San's father, who visited the master to entrust him to his son, Tang San. Although Tang San masters wasn't in agreement to this because we believes it's wrong for a father to abandon his son, no matter the reason, but Tang Hall left without saying a word. The scene suddenly takes us back to Tang San's house, where we still see Tang San, who is still devastated concerning his father's disappearance. To cheer him up, Sho offers to be his elder sister since he has no family. Tang San suddenly takes her to a mountaintop with beautiful flowers, a place where he normally does his martial arts trainings, and clears out to Shirao Wu that he's just a pleasant, and cannot give her either wealth nor power, but all he can give her is a promise of not only seeing her as his little sister, but he also vows to follow and protect her at all times. At this moment, the bond between the both of them only started to grow bigger. Although his father left him, Tang San doesn't want to let that discourage him, but instead he promises himself to train harder and become stronger. 5 years later, Tang San and Sho is all grown up, and we find out that they have just recently graduated from the school in New Orleans City, and they're being sent by the Grand Master to a very large empire called the Skodom City, so they can register in a school called the Shrek Academy. Phone was already approaching and they are still miles away from their destination, so they both decided to lodge for the night in a nearby hotel. Unfortunately for them, the receptionist tells them that a room has already been taken apart from one, which means Tang San and Sho will have no choice but to sleep in same room for the night. Suddenly, a guy comes from nowhere and claims that the room should belong to him, according to his dressing. He's from the upper class. Even the manager of the hotel has full respect for him and even agrees to hand over the room to him, although it was Tang San and Shirao Wu that booked the room first. The guy gets furious because Tang San and Chao Wu are nothing willing to hand over the room to him, and tells them to attack him at once, and if they should defeat him, he is going to willingly hand over the room to them, and this was how this episode ended. Since Tang San promised Xiao Wood will always protect her, he volunteered to fight the guy alone. The both of them suddenly get into a very intensive battle, but after some few punches tanks and was able to defeat the guy, forcing him to use his soul powers, which is a beast soul in form of a huge tiger. Tang San also unleashes his own powers, which is Garuda gigantic snake, making the fight between the both opponent much fiercer. But as this guy started to use beast soul to attack Tang San, he started to overpower him, and after a long struggle, he defeated Tang San. As it is revealed that he has a third soul ring, we find out that his intentions wasn't to hurt them, but only to showcase how powerful he is to everyone. We also find out that he is also a student in the academy. Tang San and Xiao Wu is about to attend called the Shrek School. Later that night, the room was handed back to them to stay for the night, but Tang San wasn't acting as cheerful as Xiao Wu because he kept on thinking about the fight he had with that guy and how he was defeated. Next morning, we see Tang San and Chao Wu strolling around the market in the city until they branched at a library because Tang San intends to buy any special material that can be of great use to him inside the place. He finds a hair crystal, which could be really important to him. But as the seller saw how desperate he needed it, he kept on the increasing price. But when Tang San mentions his master's name, he surprisingly decided to hand the crystal over to him for free. As soon as they return back to the hotel, Tang San brings out a hammer from his belt and breaks the crystal into several pieces. He explains to Xiao Wu, who was so curious to know why he desperately needed the crystal. It's a natural hidden weapon called the Dragon Beard Needle, which can take down an enemy at one shot. But he clears out to her that in this world, it's not the weapon that is dangerous or immoral, but it all depends on the person using it immediately. They continued their journey to the Shrek Academy. It was really a long work, but as a brother, Tang San decided to carry Shou on his back until they finally arrived at their destination, the Shrek. The new students along with Tang San and Xiao Wu were looking so disappointed because the whole place turns out to be so shabby and old. They are all lined up in a queue to make their registration into the school. We see a young boy who is accompanied by his father, making payments for his son's registration, but suddenly the registrar tells the man to take his son home as he is still underage. The worst part is that he refused to refund their money back to them, making the boy's father so furious, refusing to leave without his money. Suddenly the school registrar calls in a boy called New Bei to forcefully take them away. We find out that New Bei was the guy who fought with Tang San at the hotel earlier. Moba agrees to give their refund back to them only if they are able to defeat him. Seeing how powerful he is, the father and son had no choice but to retreat out of fear. The school registrar suddenly tells the other registering students that the Shrek School is also called a monster school, which means it's a school that only needs someone with extraordinary abilities and will only admit anyone who has exceeded the age of admission or someone with a soul power higher than level 21. While saying so, he showcases his energy level in front of them. As the registrar is revealed to be a soul emperor, almost everyone weren't accepted in the school until it got to a girl's turn. When the registrar finds out that her energy is even higher than what is expected, he immediately registered her into the school, and as he checks Tang San and show energy only to also find out that it's very high, he as well registered them into the school, according to the registrar. Instructions. Moba takes them to another teacher where they will undergo the second exam, and that was how this episode ended. The next episode begins as we see Tang San and Xiao Wu in a queue for their exams. But few moments later, Hubby, who turns out to be a senior in their school, decided to help them skip all the exams directly to the fourth and final exams without staying in a queue like the other kids. But as Tang San disapproves, believing it wasn't inappropriate, New Bei assures them that he is not playing favoritism, but it's only because they deserved it. The other kids who are in the queue sees this and protested against it, making Senior Moba to tell them that if their soul power has reached 25, they can all go directly to the fourth exams just like Tang San and Xiao Wu, who has exceeded level 25. But the kids couldn't believe it until he calls Tang San and Xiao Wu to showcase their soul powers in front of them. When the kids sees this, they were so surprised. Suddenly a girl who was also newly admitted into the school confidently comes out and showcases her powers, which also turns out to be at level 25. Another mysterious girl we haven't seen before also showcased her soul powers, which turns out to be high. making them all to gain access directly to the 4th exams without being in a queue after a long walk. Senior Moba takes them to meet a man called Mr. Joe, who is in charge of the 4th exams. This man appears to look very huge with a scary tattoo on his body concerning the 4th exams. Master Joe gives them an hour to discuss and get to know each other, while as for another hour, they must team up and try their best to resist his attacks. If anyone is able to be persistent until after an hour, they will pass the exams. In conclusion, he gives them a tip, which is it's only when they are united that's only when they can have the chance to pass the exams. Senior Moba meets them so he can do anything he can to help them, because Master Joe is not an easy opponent, but Shiro, Wu and the rest of them believes they might still have a chance on defeating him, until Senior Moba informs them that Master Joe is not a soul emperor as they thought, but he is a soul ST, whose soul powers is at level 76, and he is the second most powerful person after the dean of the school. This word shocks them all and even scares Tanks, and the most because he remembers when his master told him about soul saints with level 76 soul powers are extremely strong, and has the capability to even take down an army of 10,000 people with ease. Senior Moba tells them that all they can do is to quickly think of a strategy to withstand Master Jiao attacks. He tells them that Master Jiao's soul powers is a beast soul in form of a bear, and its defense is extremely terrifying, and even soul masters at his level can hardly defend against him. He explains that the only weak point Master Jiao has is speed, but due to the big difference between his powers and them, his weak point will be worthless to them, and Master Jiao has a nickname, which is called the Akola, and that was how this episode ended. In the next episode, when Senior Moba mentions Master Joel's nickname is the Akola, a girl among them really seems to be familiar with that name long time ago. Master Jiao, who was formerly known as the Akala, went against the rules of the Martial Soul Hall, which prompted 15 bishops of the Soul Emperor level to affront him. But all of them at once weren't able to defeat him. But since then, no one ever saw him, but it turns out that he is now a teacher in their school, the Shrek Academy. In conclusion, Senior Moba advises them to pray for themselves and as well quickly get to know themselves better, so they can find a way to endure the fight with Master Joel for 1 hour. Tang San and Shirao Wu introduces themselves to the group. Suddenly we get to know the names of the other 2 girls in the group, called Juju-chan, who has the beast soul of a cat whose soul powers is at level 27, while the other girl in the group introduces herself as Ning Rong Rong, as a weapon soul of the Quabo, Amber Propaganda, whose soul powers is at level 26. Immediately, Tang San gathers the group together and started to give them a strategy on how to defeat Master Joe. After 1 hour of the group has already fully concluded with their plan, and are now prepared to face Master Joe. As the fight begins, Ning Rong unleashes her powers, and according to their strategy, they started to attack Master Joe from all directions. But it turns out that this man is totally indestructible, as their blows weren't effective in any way. After a long fight, Tang San suddenly brings out his blue silver plant, and uses it to tie down Master Joe, while Zhou Qing, who has the soul of a cat, slashes his body with her claws, while Shiyahu was able to give a final finishing by landing a very powerful kick that pushes Master Tao with full force to the ground, which surprises Senior Mu Bei because this is the first time Master Joe has ever been defeated. But Tang San is still cautious because Master Joe hasn't even used his soul powers yet. In their second attack, the group used all their soul powers and defeated Master John for the second time, making him to finally unleash his soul powers on them, and as he landed a blow on Shirao Wu, she instantly falls unconscious. The rest of the group has already given up on the fight, but Tang San still bravely goes forward to face Master Joe all by himself. Tang San remembers a book he read that says don't try to ever defeat your opponent, pretending to be weak unless you will really lose suddenly. Tang San started to throw numerous needles at him and even managed to extend his blue-silver plant at a higher level. But still Master Jout overcomes everything, but the fight was an easy one for them both, and that was how this episode ended. The next episode begins as the fight between these both worthy opponent was only getting more intense. Master Jiao was gaining the upper hand in the fight, but unknowingly he never knew that Tang San had a secret motive of his own, as he was slowly placing poisonous needles all around Master John's body to weaken him, and what we have all been waiting suddenly happens as Tang San finally brings out his weapon soul, which is in form of a hammer, and as he strikes it on Master Jiao, who wasn't able to withstand its powers, he was defeated by winning Master Jiao in a fight. Kang San and the rest of them passed the exams. Master Chao, who is really impressed by their capabilities, tells Senior Moba to arrange an accommodation for them to stay in the school. Tang San, Jiao Wujiojiang, and Ning Rong is already exhausted in the fight, so they were all carried inside their room to rest. Later that night, we see Master Zhao in his office, making arrangements and other to begin the trainings with the students tomorrow. Suddenly, he hears a mysterious voice from nowhere calling his name, and as he traces the voice deep inside the forest, he comes across a strange man who unveils his powers in front of Master Zhao, and as he brings out his soul weapon, which is in form of a gigantic hammer. It scares Master Zhao because that person is revealed to be a soul grandmaster. Who do you think this person is? Find out in our next video. Thank you for watching, guys. If you love animation movies, please subscribe to this channel and keep watching. Bye.